yeah, Zoom can do like virtual green screens. Doesn't actually have a green screen behind you. It's sort of, if you move around, it sort of like doesn't really quite work, but it's not bad.
All right. So back to the beginning of the milestone. So next milestone ends in 27 days. MRs for the month 22. There's a new feature in 12.10, health status, and we should start using it where it makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense on an individual issue level, but at an epic level, it provides a pretty good overview. Have folks seen this? It's pretty cool. Anyway, take a look when you have a chance. Chun pointed out to me that we have the number of MRs that we're looking at don't match between member versus team label. So please be sure to apply the group memory label to your MRs so that we have a consistent count when we're looking at them. I'll go through them today and try and catch up on all those, make sure they're labeled properly. But something to keep in mind going forward. For May, there's still some slots that need to be filled for support. So if anybody needs to put in their time for support, please take a look. And also 12.10 retro issue was opened up, and Camille's already put in something there. Some nice feedback on our NDJSON efforts. So thank you. And jump over to the board. There's quite a few that are still in 12.10. We'll run through those real quick and move them accordingly. So I think with this one, this is kind of the issue that tracks all the remaining work, right? This isn't a specific implementation issue, the make plan limits available. A question to Alexi and Camille.
So this is done. I'm actually like waiting for like 5 or 6 days for maintainer review to actually merge that. I ping them again on merging that.
Okay.
So I received the feedback maybe today, maybe tomorrow. So
right. Well, I'll move it over since we're outside of 12.10 already. And then the health, sorry? What were you gonna say?
Yes, but like the plan limits, it's done. It's waiting to be merged. So
awesome. All right, health check documentation.
I started doing that, but I did not finish that.
And then Puma upstream.
I started doing that, but I did not finish that. I'm sorry.
Is there anybody that can help with that one, or would that just cause more work to hand that off to somebody else?
I'm actually like rerunning all my performance tests right now to update the patch, because like the plan is as follow. I rerun performance tests, figure out like the best values, update the patch, merge it to GitLab, release that with GitLab, confirm that with GitLab, then push like updated version to Nate. This was like what we were discussing with Nate on the course of the action. I'm right now on retesting the patch, like to push that to our local testing first.
Okay. I thought this one was done. Nope. Looks like the MR is still open. Huh. Looks like that one's on me. I'll take a look at that one later. Implement shared runner minute factors.
This one is merged, and I wonder if we could close it, but there is a lot of discussion comments under the issue, and I wonder if we should like move to the epic to continue discussion. Because
I think Alexi, like we should close this if it's merged, and like
yeah,
like
especially since we have a testing issue as a separate one.
Okay, do you want to close that out and comment that we're closing, Alexi?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. And then Chinyu commented on these. He's got some follow-up work to do, so we'll carry that one over. And then Matthias.
That's waiting for code review. I sent it out today. It's just a really small bug fix for the main. So this relates to this whole series of MRs that return correlation IDs and the number of failed relations from imports in the REST API. So the functionality is shipped with 12.10. But while testing, I found this problem. But it's not. We decided it's an S3, so it's not a big deal. So there will be a fix. Oh, actually, I had a question about this. So because it's tagged as 12.10, but the bug fix will go into the next patch release. So is that what milestone is that then? Is that still 12.10 or is that then 13? Because we're already kind of moving to 13. I wasn't sure how to tag that.
Matthias,
Do you know what I mean?
ask?
Yeah, I do.
So it's like it's a bug fix that's supposed to land in a patch release for 12.10. So I guess 12.10.1. Not totally sure. So what milestone does that belong to? Because it came out of work for 12.10, but it will not ship with 12.10 because 12.10 is done.
I think it goes into 13.
Okay. I can change it. I think it's still in 12.10.
I just.
Oh, you moved it. You moved it. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Good. Thanks.
And there is also this atomic processing rollout of the feature flag. I already moved it to 13.0 because we just rolled it out for 1 day at the moment for like project GitLab FOSS, and we are still measuring and testing. So
Okay.
It will not be rolled out in 12.10.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we covered the rapid action update with everything that we just talked about, individual issues on the CI minutes. So Josh, you want to run through 13.0?
Yeah, sure. So I want to just talk through a little bit of 13.0 and kind of some ideas here. The first one, I think, is as far as priorities go, we should finish up, of course, any work that we have in progress just to make sure we finish it out. So let's just get that stuff done. It sounds like most of it's already in review, which is awesome. So that's great. I should probably add also Puma up here. Anything comes in on Puma that we might learn or find out about prior to 13.0 and changing it to be opt-out, of course, we should pick up work on as and if it comes in. And then just making sure we finish out the import and CI minute work. Is anything remaining there still, or are we kind of done on both of those?
Yeah, we need to test it on staging, and we have a separate issue dedicated to that, which is tagged with 13.0, and it would require some effort from our side, and I plan to start it today. And we also need to ask our site reliability engineers to actually enable this issue. It wouldn't require some effort from our side, but it would require some coordination and from as a team.
Got it. Yeah, and anything else aside from that one that kind of remains in either of these two projects, or are we essentially on the home stretch here?
So I found this one today, some quick documentation on which versions we support for import and export. So you can't export from a newer version and try and import into an older version. Just a quick documentation update on that one. And then
Should the memory team do that, or should we pass that off to the import team?
I think we can pass it off.
Yeah, I think unless it's, I mean,
It's not critical.
yeah, I think we should just have the default operation should be to pass it over unless there's something special about our knowledge of like NDJSON implementation or something like that. That would be really helpful.
So we merged 12.10 NDJSON stuff, but I believe it's not yet enabled. Should we coordinate and switch over with 13.0 to NDJSON basically and continue supporting legacy format for few milestones? Because I don't think that this is kind of clarified yet.
But until we don't have ability to choose the expert and compatibility, we cannot enable it, right?
Why?
Why?
How import will work, but we will then force them to use the NDJSON export from 13.0, right? And beside that, I created an issue for 13.0 that we should test and measure before we enable these feature flags. So this is something we should do too.
So I think 13.0 will be like the best possible moment to switch over to efficient format. So like 13.0 becomes compatible with 13.0 on the exporting side.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I know that we discussed like to have some UI that customer can choose between exports. So
I think like the conclusion was that like we just switch over to NT-JSON.
Okay.
We don't allow to choose the export format. We continue supporting legacy format for time being until further notice. Is it correct, Joshua?
Perfect.
Yeah. My understanding was as we cut over, I agree. If there's an over, would be a great release to cut over in, given the major release. And I think someone wrote a tool, I can't remember who, I'm sorry, to convert if necessary. So we have that fallback option if we need to. I agree, like a little warning box that pops up that might say like, hey, this appears to be in an old format, or or some kind of, like, I'm not sure what kind of messaging we can give, but if we can give a little text message, if it's low effort, that might be helpful. Another question would be, should we pass this off to the import team to sort of manage the deployment, like to manage the rollout of how they want to coordinate this? And if not, and if there's stuff that we want to try and do here, it'd be good to get the import PM involved, and I can do that on my side to make sure the person who owns the workflow sort of like manages the rollout. But I agree, doing this in 13.0 would be better than a minor release if we can. And let's also just get it done and get it enabled, right? Like we did all this work, let's actually turn it on.
Can we also like maybe add to 12.10 messaging that we're gonna start using new export format with 13.0?
Yeah, we can definitely announce deprecation essentially of the old format.
It's not really like deprecation. It's like saying, if you export from 13.0, you're gonna be able to import into 13.0 because we're gonna still support importing old format for time being.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the best way to announce, like, yeah. We can figure out the best way to message it. Typically, like stuff like that goes into notifications or like get you an early deprecation. It's just that you won't be backwards compatible anymore. And honestly, frankly, I think backwards compatibility seemed like it may or may not have actually worked in the first place, right? We never actually tested it. So
it's like we do not test that it doesn't work very well. That like you export by 12.10 and try to import in 12.0. It's like it's no go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. So I think we can just, let's push to get it turned on. What I'll do is I'll let me look and see if there's an issue for this right now. And if not, let's just I'll make one and then I'll ping Harris. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. Just get his okay, and let's just get it turned on and stuff, and just go forward.
I didn't see an issue.
All right, I'll make one.
You can see the new health status feature on this Epic. So a lot of the labels aren't turned on, just the one that's listed as at risk.
And right now it's just found a feature flag, right? Essentially. Or is it, what's the current state until the 10 for NT-JSON?
Yeah.
We can enable feature flag on a group, for example, to start exporting from a group. I think that this is our granularity.
Gotcha. I just wanted to confirm, just so if I wouldn't want to up the issue, I'm accurate. Awesome. Cool. Okay, I'll get that done.
Question, is testing and measuring on staging also going to be included in this rollout and maybe taken over by import group, or we should continue this effort?
That's the issue right above. Oh, no, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is there an issue for this actually, or is that
There
no
is, but
issue?
I didn't include it in Epic. I will add it there. I
Okay.
created two separate issues, one for export and one for import.
Gotcha. Yeah. So let's keep it on our plate for now, and I'll talk to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just something
No,
I thought about
Industrial Harris.
some
I
of
was
the
just
Puma
pausing so I
column.
could. I was pausing so I could write. And so also the Harris, I'm not sure what kind of plan they have, and we're kind of adding things onto their plate a little bit here for Tinkerado. So I want to check with them to make sure that they have capacity or they can, you know, have understanding here of what we're proposing. So I will do that. And but for now, if there is work on testing and staging, you know, and we have time, we can pick it up. And hopefully in the next couple of days, like I can get with Harris, or sooner.
Nicola, how much time it would take us to test ND-JSON and say it's ready?
I'm not sure, maybe 2 days, because we just need to import, export like 2 different projects of size and compare the results. But beside that, I have those 3 merge requests that are moving our measurement model to the service layer, so we can like have automatic results of those import export shown in Kibana or something like that. So this is a separate effort that is currently ongoing. It's almost ready for like maintainer review, but I still have some specs that are failing, so it will. I guess that also stack with this testing and measuring results. So.
And the 2 days is run and then come back and check the results later on, right? It's not fully dedicated work.
Yeah,
for 2 days.
I'm talking about manually testing on staging, like running those reg tasks and reading the results. But this effort, this is different effort that I'm talking about with this task of moving those measurements to be automated. This is a separate issue.
Okay. And then Josh, Matthias and I have been talking about this one for a while. This does seem like it fits squarely in scalability. Now there's some efforts they're taking on that there's an MR that's been open for a while. We haven't got a lot of feedback, but it seems like scalability is doing similar work. And we've asked on the MRs if it makes sense for scalability. And I even asked them again this morning if it makes sense for them to just take this effort over altogether.
Yeah, and it's a very painful process because there's a lot of like kind of trial and error and like guesstimation in there. Like because it's not a lot of implementation work. It's really like, you know, I lack the domain knowledge there to make this like a good solution that will work with the config that we run in production. So I always need to wait for the people who can make this call or make it better than I do to weigh in. And it has been like a very slow moving issue for a while. And we broke out a bunch more out of these. So I finally got feedback on this MR that has been open for a while. And there were some suggestions that was to break it up, but none of the main questions are answered, particularly like around how like do we want to set these mins and max values. So I don't think, so I would be unblocked in the sense that, yeah, I can make that MR smaller, but that doesn't solve the problem. So it feels like it would be way quicker if like the people who are actually close to that topic would work on this, to be honest.
And this is the defaults for the pool size for all of GitLab, like self-managed and .com, or is this specific tuning for GitLab.com?
Yeah, I mean, it touches on both, right? Because it applies to, it applies to any GitLab instance. It doesn't matter really how you run it, because we have to look at the runtime configuration to tie it all together. And some of it might come from, say, an Omnibus configuration file. And some of it might be user managed, and others are like parameters that just come in through the environment, such as like, you know, are you running Sidekick or are you running Puma, and like how how many threads is it scaled and so forth,
Hmm.
and tie it all together. And then from this arrive at a number that we consider acceptable as a minimum pool size, and arrive at a number which we consider acceptable to be a maximum pool size. Then the idea was to kind of clump it in between that as just a safety measure. So I sent out an MR with like a suggestion for how to do that. But it's been like, very slow mover. And there's like other work going on in parallel in the scalability team that operates kind of in the same direction. So it feels a bit detached from all the other stuff at this point that we do. So to me, it seems like a good point, like where we cut this over to the group that actually has, more experience running the infrastructure that this would directly impact.
The only concern there is the scalability is pretty focused on GitLab.com, not so much self-managed. And so to the degree that there's any like sort of awareness of self-managed, obviously, Rachel and Maren and the whole team are pretty experienced GitLab people. So they can, no concerns that they can actually keep self-managed in mind. That's the only thought I had there around whether it's right. I'm happy to go talk to them if it's more
That's a
just
good point.
efficient.
I mean, I'm curious what Camille thinks, but I think so these are mostly safety measures so that we don't underrun or overrun our connection pool. I would argue that and these are created lazily. So I would argue that whatever works for GitLab.com will work for any self-managed customer, because this is not something. It's not like if we say, oh, the maximum is like 1,000 connections or whatever. It's not like we like pre-allocate these. It's just like an upper bound where we set like a hard cap. So if then like a customer would spin up a tiny deployment of GitLab, that doesn't mean they would ever see like, that limit be exhausted. And it remains to be configurable, through GitLab.rb. Yeah. I think so from like a risk perspective, I think what's at risk here is GitLab.com, not really self-managed. But I mean, like, I think, so maybe we can maybe this should be the other way around, with our input for self-managed, we should look into, I mean, the reason we created this story and the sub-stories was because of GitLab.com incidents. This was not a self-managed thing. This did not come out of self-managed.
Okay. I'll talk with Rachel perhaps first. Maybe Craig and you and I can just maybe collaborate on the issue here and just ping her asynchronously, and we can see where this ends up.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome. So a couple more minutes left. So the next thing, and kind of after all these things and tying up loose ends from our existing really important efforts, is unless others feel otherwise, it kind of feels like further reducing memory consumption is not the most impactful thing we can do. And right now, performance would be a little higher impact. And so I was trying to figure out what we could try to help out here from both a proactive level and like arming the rest of the team to have a better idea of what they need to go prioritize. I think overall, the biggest challenge here is that, frankly, PMs haven't been prioritizing performance issues as they should, and so now we're in this position where GitLab.com is really slow, and now it needs OKRs to try and fix the situation that we're in. So I feel like we're sort of got into a very bad spot with a very blunt tool to try and reorient performance, and so that's where we're at. So a couple of things here. One is a couple ideas, and I love people's opinions on them. One is tracing. I'll link in the issue, but I think it's already in the 13.0 board. Is that we've had tracing installation for GitLab for a long time, for like over a year. We haven't gotten it across the line. The observability team from Infra is on board with setting up some, like, investing time to get tracing set up. And the side on our side would be to just try and make sure we get any kind of engineering across the line here. So there is a little bit of instrumentation depending on what solution we take. We might find out that's not quite performant, and we could then just further drive tracing forward. And then the other one would be some of the core performance testing of UX journeys. So we don't really do a good job of trying to understand like how long it takes to accomplish an objective, like going to your to-dos, clicking on a to-do, commenting on an issue, for example. And so I think I'm approaching this as that if we had this information, it would be much easier for PMs to prioritize and understand the impact of these performance problems if it was more contextualized, as far as like, hey, this core workflow, what you're saying is like your North Star metric, is actually quite slow. Maybe you should consider prioritizing fixing it. And that might be more consumable than a bunch of Rails controllers or JSON size improvements and things like that, as far as like the problem to go attack. So I'd love people's opinions on any of these things and all of these things if they are helpful and helpful. The quality team might end up picking up some of the UX journeys. I need to get with Nick to understand like to what degree they want to try and take that one up. And so TBD there. And the final one is the proposed performance OKR. So folks have been aware there's been a discussion based on SourceHut, which is a startup competitor, really basically doing competitive performance analysis of GitHub and GitLab and Bitbucket and SourceHut. No surprise there, SourceHut's #1, but the concern is that it does illustrate how slow GitLab is in some of these cases. And so from there, there's an OKR being proposed to try and solve this. And so I think to the degree the memory team can help there, in particular on sort of core foundational components that might need improvements, would also be great. And so if folks can just think about those 3 items, that would be very helpful. Camille, I think I didn't have a chance to connect with you on these things and get your thoughts. So if you have some ideas, that would be great. But the performance OKR, I think, would be a good one. It would be an OKR for this quarter if we can spend some time trying to maybe picking up some of the items that are found that are sort of cross-cutting, multi-stage, foundational Rails or backend stuff. That would be great. So anyways, let's, I think, as far as next steps, just keep the conversation going in these issues. And if you have thoughts on opinions on if there's something else we should do that's more important or more impactful on performance, definitely let me know. We can always change our plans here. We're not locked in stone after kickoff here for sure.
Cool.
Craig, you have kickoff?
No.
Oh, sorry.
We got to jump here in a minute, but I just wanted to call out that Matthias is working on some action cable work for this milestone as well. I wanted to make sure we called that out for 13.0. There's a lot of work in there in 13.0. So, but yeah, let's review the OKR and the issues that Josh brought up so we can start breaking them down and iterating on them.
Yeah, thanks. The first one basically is, the second one's trying to just help PMs prioritize better and have more knowledge of like UX journeys. And the first one of tracing is, if people think it'd be helpful to try and debug more quickly and understand what's happening in production more quickly, then we can do that. If we feel like we don't need tracing, let's actually get rid of it. But it kind of feels like it's a bit low hanging at this point in time and could be a good way to help improve our understanding of how the Rails application actually performs, and frankly, all services together, rather than trying to do some other like pprof stuff. So
I got to jump because I'm hosting the next meeting. Thanks, everybody. Happy Monday.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you.